Here's one of my oldest project cars that I have. Oh, that's not true. Here is one of the longest running project cars I have. Yes, this thing does run, barely. It's filled with some really old gas. A 1964 Mercury Comet 404 two-door Post that I have heavily modified for like the last, I don't know, 15 plus years. Like, let's go over the list. It is a 64 Comet. It is titled as a 64 Comet. But it has the entire chassis of a 1993 Ford Thunderbird underneath. Complete with four-wheel disc brakes, independent rear suspension, rack and pinion steering, working ABS, not exactly a flex, but, you know, with a 1996 Ford Explorer. Well, not really. It's a 302 bored 40 over, which was out of an 85 Mustang. The top end is an Edelbrock Performer heads that I got out of a junkyard with an Edelbrock Performer lower intake with, I think, a Performance Products upper intake, you know, an Edelbrock clone, with 96 Ford Explorer ignition system running off of a 99 Mustang GT computer. Running a 96 Ford Explorer front accessory drive, which it was originally all 93 Thunderbird, but the main reason I swapped the accessory drive was because I hated the 93 power steering system. I could not get it to seal no matter how many aftermarket parts I threw at it. So with the Explorer, I'm able to run AN fittings and run an external reservoir. And it's actually been pretty leak free, but I haven't actually had this thing on the freeway with this drivetrain. The transmission, obviously the factory 93 Thunderbird, was an AOD 4-speed overdrive, which I absolutely hated, because when I used to autocross this car, you couldn't get it back down in the first gear manually. So I threw a 4R70W transmission in it out of a 94 Thunderbird, which that's been completely gone through. And I was trying to control it with an AODE computer out of a 95 Mustang. And I never could get it to work right. It shifted fine, but it had a stalling issue, which the first time you put it in the driver reverse, it would stall unless you caught the throttle just right, which I believe was an engine management problem. And I couldn't find a lot of information on it because a lot of tuners, I mean, it was such a hodgepodge setup that I got a hold of a rolled over 96 Ford Explorer, which naturally had a 4R70 in it and coil pack ignition. So I just threw that whole system in here. But there wasn't a lot of aftermarket tuning options for the 96 PCM. It's parked under the worst thing you can park it under. But a 99 GT computer definitely had a lot more aftermarket support for it. Well, not really aftermarket as much as just more free software strategies and tuning. So I ran that with a modified 94 Thunderbird harness, because this was a 93 Thunderbird. In 94 they came out with the 4.6 2-valve motor, which is the same thing as the Mustangs. What I should have did was just rip the drivetrain out of that GT, which at one point I swapped a dual cam Mark 8 engine into, which would just bolt directly into this thing, and it would have the T5. I mean, not the T5, the T45 5-speed. But I figured trying to make a clutch work in this car was insane. Thunderbirds came with 5 speeds, you know, the Super Coupes, but as you can see, there's no room for a master cylinder for the clutch system. And that was, we originally had hinges on it. You can see some of the remains of the mounts, but when I did the harness swap, I realized I couldn't get to the harnesses, so I had to cut all that out. And we came up with this hood hinge off of a 89 Buick LeSabre, which was actually one of the easiest modifications I've done on this, other than I need to put some kind of nylon sliders here because the bolts are starting to scratch into the hood. I originally built this thing to be a cruiser, and I like racing. I'm addicted to racing, that's a problem. And every time I drive it, you know, everybody just beats the hell out of this car. I thrashed it together one weekend, or 1 week, when In and Out was doing that collage with Hot Rod at Pomona, the Fairplex, to do an anniversary. I think it was 60th? I don't know, I'll have to look that up. But it literally went from a tore apart non-running car to pretty much this, and I think I stayed up for 3 days straight trying to get it to the track, and I could never get it tuned right. It was either, it's definitely a scaling issue with the mass airflow to the 19-pound injectors, because the computer has the strategy of a mass airflow for, you know, a 4.6 Triton. And I found, I'm not going to get into all that details, it's kind of a whole thing, but hey, so much crap. I did swap it, like the whole scaling is, the graph is a 4.6 Triton with 19-pound injectors. I don't know, I'm just not smart enough to do the math of the percentages of the scaling and read the numbers. I mean, I even had a wideband controller on this thing, and it was either it had great throttle response and wouldn't idle, or it had no throttle response and would idle. I could never get both. JBA headers, because actually most of these parts were built from the Cash for Clunkers program when they were scrapping all the cars. I was able to score almost all these parts from Cash for Clunker cars. That's how sad that program was. Hot rodded Thunderbirds were scrapped so somebody could buy a Toyota Corolla. And it still has all the AC system. It was all hooked up at one time, but the Thunderbird AC compressor was up top. Nope, the AC compressor was way on the bottom, and the power steering would leak all over it. And I just need to make the lines and connect them. I think they're both down here. Yeah, you got this line, I think, needs to go to the evaporator. Not the evaporator, that's over there. This needs to go to the front condenser. This one needs to go to the evaporator accumulator, which I don't have the accumulator, which used to be a dryer system up front here on the 93. But on the the 96 Explorer, it had an actual accumulator. So at the time, I couldn't weld aluminum. I can weld aluminum now, so we can make that work, no problem. But honestly, the biggest problem with using a 93 Thunderbird chassis was the wheel pattern, which the 93 Thunderbird uses the front-wheel drive Ford pattern, the 5-on-112, which is Volvo, Lincoln Mark 8s, the newer Lincolns, the Lincoln LSs, and some other weird front-wheel drive cars. And this thing's gone through probably 15 different sets of rims. Like, here's the last Volvos. You see Volvo. Because these are factory. Nope, these are the ugly ones. Yeah, so those are ugly. At least they're 17s. But to fit the car, you have to run this very horrible offset, like 50 millimeters. And 50 millimeter offsets on old cars is a horrible look. I know if you go over to the B is for Build channel, where they love to do Mustang body swaps, they run into this problem almost on every build. I actually like the latest build. He took the SEMA with the Kongs that he ran. I think they were 10-spoke Kong wheels. But don't have $1,000 to drop on a set of rims, but I feel like that's been the biggest problem with this car. I'm just been afraid to spend money on it. I love having cars so long that the paint I put on it is now patina. I have another set of fenders, but to fit this on this body, the rear wheel wells are in the right place. The front one had to go, what was it? We had to move the wheel well, I think back. No way, there's not enough room. I think we moved it forward, but we did a little bit of a wide body to it. You can see it's got a little crest there. Just trying to tuck wheels on this car has just been such a pain because of the way the body line indents. So if you get it to clear on the bottom, it sucks it in right where the tire needs to go. So you can't bulge this fold, because you also got this one. And the back is twice as bad because it's actually got another kick out. So this has been an ongoing issue for years. So the last time we were playing with it, I just said, the hell with it. Just cut the damn wheel wells out, put the tires we want on, and add the metal back to give it like I was going with, it's a NASCAR look. And I'm still holding to that. It's not gonna probably be the best look, but I'd rather it be some super aggressive rat rod look than trying to get those on it. And the front wheels are actually Mustang GT wheels, like 99 to 2004. The rears are, well, the rear, I only have the one, is just an aftermarket American Muscle wheel. I think this thing's 11 inches wide. It's an 18, the front's a 17, which fits a 295 40/18, which is a very aggressive tire for this car. The other side we haven't modified as much. Oh wait, we modified it way more. But that's what the 17 looks like on it. You can see we actually almost had it fitting. In fact, I'd say we did. But to get this to fit, I've actually added a ton of camber to it. Like, that's level, and it doesn't show up in picture. And I hate running camber in the back. I don't like my tires wearing funny. And unfortunately, it's really hard to add the metal back once you cut it out. So the last idea was, well, I guess I need to just order a set of quarter panels over for it and start over. Oh, turns out you can't get 64 Mercury Comet panels because it's a 1-year car. Some things are 2-year. Like, actually the rear quarter panels are 2-year. The tail lights are 2-year, 64, 65. Quarter panels are 64, 65. Front end is 64 only, and then 65. They move the double headlights perpendicular. Honestly, when this car was going, it was a lot of fun. The thing would do 110 on the freeway with the AC on in 120-degree weather. And was getting like 19 miles to the gallon. So what is the point of this, going over this car? Well, we just got back from SEMA, and I have ideas. I always have ideas, never have execution. But the newest idea is, they're starting Hot Rod Power Tour West this year. And I've always wanted to go to Hot Rod Power Tour, but it's in the, the south, east. That's a long way. I'm not that ambitious. But I am ambitious enough to take this to Fairplex and then drive it to Vegas. Hell, I've done that. We've taken it to a couple rockabilly shows in Vegas. I've taken it to Route 66 like 4 times back when Stater Brothers was doing it. I have proof. Here, this is when this thing was a Louisiana car, 95. And this is when we took it in 2011. It was like the last real one. Back when they used to do this down in San Bernardino, right in front of City Hall. I mean, that's pretty much the last time it was driven, September 15th. 2011. That makes me feel old. So like I said, when I first put it together, I used to used to autocross it because it was never really fast enough for drag racing. It does have I did swap 373s and a posi differential into it. And it's got a lot of chassis reinforcement because of, you know, the structures are different. And it did have a lot of flex in it, so I did all the Thunderbird mods, like tie the front subframe into the rear, into the middle, with some crossbars, and then the back differential actually has brackets running between the control arm mounting points. The biggest problem was all the rubber bushings are shot, and it's really hard to get proper bushings for a Thunderbird. Energy Suspension does not have a part number for it. I thought I could use Cobra Mustang parts, but they're different. I mean, they both have independent rear suspension, but they're different. I really wish I would have just put this on an SN95 chassis. It'd be still running. It'd be still driving. So, if you don't know what I'm getting at, let's take this to Hot Rod Power Tour. Fix the bodywork. Well, fit the tires and rims I want. Make the bodywork work around that. Figure out the tuning. I'm thinking maybe try to get a Terminator Max setup, but honestly that's $1,800 I don't have. Like, this is running a quarter horse, a Modus quarter horse, and Modus went out of business this year, which another problem, because again, I was using quarter horse and now there's no support for it. There is a couple companies that are trying to take up the slack, but now it's like, now the information is getting more buried on the web of how to deal with it. I got one tuner who says he can do it, but he's kind of a high-end tuner and he's out in Huntington Beach, so I'm going to look into SCT's tuning, or SXT tuning. Is it SCT? I think it's SCT. But it's such a cobbled together thing, I'm thinking maybe I need to just put the distributor back in it. But again, the problem is there's no distributor based. Oh, now that I think about that, I was about to say there's no distributor based 5-liter push rods that run a 4R70W. But F-150s do. Just really don't want to put the distributor back in it. But it's cammed. I know it needs bigger injectors. Well, I don't know that. I mean, it's got an ABC cam, which is it's a Ford B303 cam with stock out-of-the-box Performer Edelbrock aluminum head. And it has, I put flat-top pistons in it. Did I put flat-tops in it? Well, I have the part number. I'll have to look that up. I know when I got the motor, it came out of the junkyard with 40 over pistons in it, but they were 100th below the deck because they were an old school cheater piston back from the gas crunch days to lower the compression down so you can run 87 unleaded fuel in the old Mustangs. Even though I did get the motor out of an 85 Mustang GT. And I was mad because I was like, I'm going to get a motor out of a Fox body because I know it'll have factory forged pistons in it, and the motor I come across was a brand new, freshly rebuilt long block that you could tell they just threw it in the car and then scrapped the car. It must have been cleaning out a shop. And when I tore it apart, I found, it had 40 over pistons, but that meant it had hyper-eccentric 40 over pistons, and the forged pistons are long gone. So I found on eBay a set of 40 over Speed Pro hyper-eccentric pistons that were, designed for zero deck, and threw those in there. So I'm guessing this thing probably only makes about 300 horsepower. Which is sad. Maybe we should throw an LS in it. But December 11th, I think the event is on. I don't know. But again, maybe that's just being too ambitious. But you set a goal and you just go for it. So let me edit this video, get it uploaded, and if you think I'm insane, I don't know, let me know, because I already know that. If you think I'm not insane, if you watched it, thanks for watching. Subscribe, give me some ideas, and And I'm going to throw some fresh fuel in this thing and see if I can get it moved over to the front of the shop. Maybe get a spreadsheet going and see how much budget I need to make this happen. So, see you guys later.